All right, boys and girls, welcome back to another video. The Roadster video I did a couple weeks ago got some traction, but I figured let's compare it to the current EV biggest player in the world, in my opinion, the Rimac Nevera versus the Tesla Roadster. Now, before I get to these specs here, I want to go over a few things. First of all, how do you properly pronounce the name of this company and this car? It is Rimac Nevera. Rimac Nevera, okay? Stop saying Rimac Nevera. You Westerners are butchering the Croatian language, okay? I hvala na svima niz Hrvatske što su došli na moj video. Ako možete da stavite like ili tvoj koment, hvala ti mnogo, volim ja Hrvatsku i volim ja mate I Rimac. Hvala ti svima. And yes, that is me speaking rough Croatian. I tried not to butcher that, but that's probably the best I can do. So, what's this video about? You saw it in the title. Does Tesla have what it takes to beat this Croatian beauty over here on our right? Now, I am going to try to stay objective as much as I can in this video because I like both cars. Regardless of what the price point is going to be at the Roadster, if you haven't seen my last video, there's evidence. Yes, the Roadster is coming out. Just give it a little bit more time and it'll be here. And then, of course, we have the Rimac, which I love too. Absolute beauty, great technology, great company, and great country as well. So, looking at these specs down below, these are not official specs. Tesla hasn't released any of these specs that you're seeing here. But running this through multiple kind of AIs and talking to people in the performance EV space and just my knowledge of EVs that I've had for a long time, especially in performance, these are the specs in the middle column that you see here that Tesla is going to need in order to one-up Rimac. Now, they could make something similar and be neck and neck with them, but as you guys know, Tesla has a CEO that has a pretty big ego, regardless of how you feel about him. I think we can all agree on that. So he's going to probably one-up them. So just looking at these basic specs, and I will get in the next few slides how they're going to get to this kind of almost Corvette weight we have here. So power. I ran around 2,000 horsepower. Now, of course, I'm taking the horsepower of the Rimac Nevera from the basic one, not the R that's pictured here, which is a lot more gorgeous in my opinion than the regular Nevera. So we're right around the same horsepower. But the big thing that you guys probably noticed here is the weight. Much, much, much less than the Rimac. So 0 to 60 in a second, under a second actually, but I just put 1.2, 1.1, 1.2, 1.85 for the Rimac. Quarter mile time, you guys can check that out here, 7.9 to 8.1 and 8.5, probably closer to 8.3 with the Rimac Nevera R or R, as Croatians would say. And that would be a lot closer to what it would be getting with the 2,200 horsepower. But I couldn't find a lot of videos and specs on this. Obviously, the guys over at Hamilton Collection actually did quarter mile, half mile racing. And I kind of pulled that draggy data and just gave this a little bit of a boost. But it was damn near close, even on prep surface. And I believe the gentleman over at Hamilton Collection just has the regular Nevera and not the R. So 60 to 130 obviously is going to sit here in that range of 2.6 to 2.9. And again, the horsepower is similar, but it's really the weight, right? The power to weight ratio that we're looking at here that really kind of puts this 60 to 130 for the Roadster V2 right there, you know, just terrorizing 2,000 horsepower GTRs. And yes, guys, I've seen all the draggy videos, so none of you have to educate me in the comment section. I've been around the twin turbo community for a while. I just haven't posted a lot about it. So other metrics here, you know, 30 to 130, just playing around with those numbers. Again, I don't want you guys to think that the Rimac is going to be 50 car lengths behind the Roadster. It's definitely going to be able to keep up. But again, this is one-upping the Nevera on top of price if they keep it the same, of, the Roadster being 250K, probably not, because we saw it with the Cybertruck. So it's probably going to be closer to 350, 400. And obviously, are they going to use the same materials? We're going to find out in the next few slides. Top speed, 250 to 258 for both of them, around that range. They can do 300 because obviously Rimac and Bugatti are one company now. So I believe they've done 300 if I saw that video correctly, but they had to have special tires. Tesla can do that as well. Before we get into the meat and bones of how they're doing that, I wanted to jump over to a point where, yes, Mate himself confirmed that the 0 to 60 is possible, because that actually caught his eye when Elon posted that under a second a while ago. And, Mr. Breaking News himself, I talked about this in the last Roadster video, and he was talking about under a second. That's the least interesting part. Obviously, a little bit of marketing here. And this was kind of Mate Rimac's response on that. And, Elon Musk, like I said, making the claim of 0 to 60 less than a second. And while other companies dismissed it, Mr. Mate was a supporter. And there's a really nice video you guys can watch online where Mate, John Hennessy, and I think his name is Christian from Kogenseg, and I think a couple other CEOs of big racing performance companies sit down and have a table talk, and Mate says in that video, obviously he likes gas and electric and even self-driving and AI. If it wasn't for Mr. Musk, he wouldn't have made his company or even Rimac amidst that, which I could admire. And that's why I like both companies. I like how they're pushing the edge on both and pushing physics and bending it to their will as much as they can. So yeah, that's why I have just appreciation for both companies. So I believe I pulled this and this from Motor Trend, and when they asked on Facebook, they got a kind of surprising response from Rimac saying, yes, with thrusters. And then he kind of goes on in depth. Sorry that I cut it off here. There is a little bit of problems with the tank and the pressure and the valve. And, obviously the McMurray Sperling is doing the same concept with fans, and also BMW's next electric platform kind of, showcased that a few months ago in the spring here of 2025, using the same concept with fans for grip. But can they, not necessarily prove Mate wrong, but do they have something up their sleeve that maybe he's not thinking of? Because keep in mind, the one thing that Elon Musk and Tesla have that Mate does not have is a whole other company that deals with these type of thrusters and stuff called SpaceX, right? And if you watch my Roadster video, the VP of engineering, or in my opinion, the head of engineering, Lars Moravi, talks about how there's a specialized team at SpaceX working right now with a specialized team at Tesla Engineering to make the Roadster. So they have two of the craziest companies working on this thing. So they might know something Mate does not. Again, not trying to bash the guy or anything like that, because I know this is going to pull out the anti-Elon crowd, the Rimac fanboys, and a lot of other people. But again, just trying to stay objective here and look at it from both sides. Maybe they could be wrong. Maybe this guy is a bigger genius than Elon. We don't know. But just wanted to show you guys, that he is supporting both companies and they support him. And it's obviously just a kind of just a competition, right? Manly competition when it comes to that. So how do we get that Roadster down to the 3,900 pounds, right? And I have no idea why this cut off, but we're going to continue anyway. So we're taking the current weight of the fastest Tesla that they have now is the Plaid S, which uses the 18650 cells. The Rimac uses the 2170s, which are obviously the most dense cells on the planet and is used in a lot of stuff. And so are the 18650s. Even my portable battery flashlight, right? Has an 18650 cell in it. So 4680 pack. This is something that people are still sleeping on, because Tesla is really the company that is pushing this 4680 pack to obviously, be more in the limelight. They started more with the Model Y, and my Cybertruck has it, and it's awesome. So how are we eliminating 300 pounds? Well, you have to understand with the 4680 pack, it is a lot less cells, but they're a lot bigger, and they have more milliamp hours. Excuse me, I said that wrong. And with the Model S, there's around 7,100 18650s in a certain kind of configured series in parallel in the pack. Now, with the 4680 pack that they would put inside even a Model S, they would only need about 900 cells to get 100 kilowatt hours, which is the current size of the Model S plaid pack. And I believe the Rimac Nevera is right around there. And I believe the Nevera R, or Nevera R, as you Westerners say, you got me saying it now, is right around 95. So they kind of went down on the kilowatt hours, right, of the size of the pack. So that's essentially kind of where they are, lying, with that and the weight. Now, on top of that, the reason that it goes down is that they are just lighter in general. You have better cooling, so you don't need as many cooling lines and different cooling materials, and less copper, because copper is very heavy in this, right? And a lot of other materials that they would eliminate by putting in a 4680 pack. So anywhere from 200 to 300, I would say, right? So moving on to, that's kind of the high voltage system, which also entails to the 800 volt system. If you guys don't understand how that works, the Rimac is running an 800 volt system. Lucid, Porsche, they're all running an 800 volt system. And what happens there is that when you have an 800 volt optimized system, you are running at the best efficiency. 800 volts is like the kind of sweet spot for performance EVs, no matter how much horsepower or kilowatts in EV performance terms you are pushing. That's the sweet spot. Now, a mid-voltage system. I'm not sure if the Rimac is running a 48 volt. I don't believe so, because I believe the Cybertruck is the first kind of vehicle that's mass-produced. Not that the Rimac is mass-produced, but from my understanding, that has a mid-voltage system for the electronics. So it kind of got blurred out here for some reason, but that's going to eliminate 50 to 100 pounds because you're losing a lot of the fat, I like to call, or a lot of the wiring from just your basic voltage system, like the touch screen and just powering the doors and stuff like that. And that's huge. Less copper, less wiring again, right? So we already kind of touched base on that, but 800 volt system. The battery likes that, no matter what kind of battery you're using, and they're going to optimize the 4680 battery for 800 volts. More higher voltage, the system has more voltage to grab from, so there's less resistance, and you don't have to draw as much current, right? This is just basic Ohm's law. Everything in the system, from the battery to the motors to the inverter as well, likes 800 volts. So it's going to be really optimized, and you'll lose some weight there in a lot of those parts from the motor, from the thrusters. Excuse me, we'll get to the thrusters in a minute. I meant to say inverter. I'm kind of jumping a couple slides ahead here, right? So the big weight loss, in my opinion, out of all of this is going to be the carbon fiber body, right? Essentially making a lot of the parts out of carbon fiber and lighter materials that's even lighter than the S plaid to kind of match that carbon fiber and lightweight material that, even Mate was talking about here, that you have to keep it lightweight, right? So if we're sticking around this weight, it could prove to be right in his simulation and supporting it, right? So system optimization, more to do with all of this compounded in, just added in. Now we're going to go in the opposite direction. So the thruster package with the, kind of thrusters themselves and the tank to hold the compressed air or gases, that is going to add a little bit of weight. Now understand, they're not strapping rockets from SpaceX or little mini rockets on here. It is not hot. It is cool gas thrusters, not hot gas, right? So you guys understand the difference, because I made this mistake a long time ago. I'm like, wow, they're going to add rockets. And I'm like, that doesn't sound legal anywhere except for SpaceX, right? So that's essentially what that is. It is cool gas thrusters. So it is, gas, and gas is obviously oxygen that we, breathe is a gas. Air, gas, right? Compressed air, gas. So you can kind of look that up and just ask your AIs to kind of explain that to you, but that's just a rough thing of just understanding the basics of cool versus hot gas, right? So those are thrusters. That's going to add a little bit of weight, but not too much. And then obviously, in my mind, it would just only make sense to do a quad motor, because if Rimac is already doing that, Tesla's going to have to do that as well. And coming down to around the weight almost of like the most heaviest Corvette, right? 3,900 pounds, 4,100 pounds. And it's really the weight loss from the carbon fiber body, but really to do more with the 4680 pack that they are pushing that is really going to push this to the next level, right? And coming, next gen tech, I talked about this in my Roadster video from a week or two ago. Already talked about the 4680 pack. We talked about the 48 volt system, 800, volt optimized carbon fiber body, all this stuff, the thruster package. And just so you guys kind of understand the thrusters, what they are, kind of looking back here, I don't believe I put the picture here. I think it's in a thumbnail. So if you look at behind the Roadster, this is the best shot we're going to get here. Right here, my theory is this, that they could have 4 thrusters, little ones, 2 of them kind of aim down. So when it gets into its launch mode, not sure if they're still going to do cheetah stands, it's going to aim, because the biggest thing when you are drag racing at a strip on a prep surface is that your rear end has to hook. It's always the rear end that does not hook. If you watch all these slow pars and super slows, bow ties and Fords, you will see that when they spin, they always spin from behind. And with drag racing, that first 60 foot, that first few hundred feet is the most important in drag racing. If you can get that, you can break some records, right? Especially the Roadster that I think is going to break into the 7s under $500,000. Now, it's a big claim. You guys can hold me to it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. But those thrusters would push back, holding and catching grip, just like Mate said here, that, there would be a lot of dead weight, but it is essentially for grip, that you give more grip, because the more grip that you have, the more traction you have, the better times you're going to have. And then 2 more thrusters to actually point this way and actually push the car forward, giving it that 0 to 60 under a second that Mate agrees can be done. So that's essentially what the thrusters are going to do. Obviously, I didn't run a lot of the data about the aerodynamics for the top speed, aerodynamics of looking kind of like a hypercar, just like the Rimac and a Bugatti and a Koenigsegg. Obviously, the Model S Plaid body being a sedan is not the best for drag coefficiency and that low to the ground. That's why Corvettes, Porsche 911s, Bugattis, all those cars have that exotic look to them because of aerodynamics to actually achieve that top speed of 250 plus, right? This is just basic physics. So quad motor makes sense. They already have a Plaid drive unit in the back of the S Plaid. They'll put one in the front. So they already didn't have a rear differential on the S and X Plaid, but now they won't have a front differential at all because they'll have a quad motor setup, and they can have true torque vectoring. And coming back to the 800 volt system, it'll be more efficient distributing power to all 4 wheels with a quad motor setup that Rimac essentially is doing in a way that they are. But the big thing that I talked about the last Roadster video is the advanced cooling, right? So if you're going to push that amount of horsepower that I was mentioning in the beginning of the video, like 2,000, 1,700, things are going to get hot very, very fast, and even more hotter than the S Plaid. So if you understand the cooling of the S Plaid and X Plaid right now, it is essentially a kind of a metal plate that's near the stator, and that essentially has a cooling channel next to it that cools the motor, which is enough for it, and that's why you don't see them ever overheat, and you can do consistent runs while all the twin turbos have to sit there in an ice box and all that fun stuff at the drag strip before they can do their next run. Roadster is going to be like that too. Rimac is like that too. So what do we have here for the cooling? Now what they did, that and a kind of patent they filed in December that kind of got approved, was instead of the cooling being outside on a plate outside of the stator inside the drive unit, it is going to be inside of the stator. Essentially, I used this analogy in the Roadster video, and there was a comment somebody said to this. So my analogy is this, that hey, currently it's like taking an ice pack to your forehead with the S Plaid, and that's how it is cooled, where now with the upcoming Roadster and this new patent that they filed, it looks like they're going to essentially, you're going to dump your head into a bucket of water to cool it even more. Somebody said it's more like if you if you were to keep your head like straight and tilt it at an angle, and you pour water through one ear hole and it goes out through the other towards the ground, if you had your head tilted, that's essentially what they're doing. It could be like that too, but I think they would want a lot more, kind of obviously cooled, just like a PC. It's liquid cooled, just like the Rimacs. This is going to be liquid cooled. Obviously, Tesla does know how to do liquid cooling because their superchargers and their megawatt chargers are liquid cooled, especially the megawatt chargers for the semi trucks. So they know what they're doing with liquid cooling because they actually build chargers. So if they can build chargers that fast charge vehicles and semi trucks, obviously they can build something like this that would obviously be liquid cooled inside. So those are kind of my thoughts. I think I'm pretty much on the money with this. We will find out. If you guys think the Roadster is not coming out, if you're anti-Elon fan club, that's fine. Comment down below. I'm not going to be upset with you. I stay objective. I try to be polite in the comments and kind of discuss. I know some of you like to get rude and you have, troll comments, and that's fine. But again, like I said, I have appreciation for both vehicles. I think they're awesome. This is an amazing vehicle. I think the Roadster is going to, one-up it, because why would they make it the same specs? It's not too difficult. I showed you that, given all the technology that Tesla is going to use, that Rimac is using a lot of it. I just think Tesla, with their 15 to 20 years experience ahead of Rimac and building a lot more cars, and on top of that, having a lot more S and X plaids out there from data they can pull, because keep in mind, Tesla's more of an AI robotics company versus Rimac being a car company. So they have that on their side too, right? Like someone said back in the day to me, Tesla is like 5 to 6 startups in one. On top of that, having all the power and resources from SpaceX as well. So, feel free to comment what you like in Croatian, in English, whatever you like. Don't try to butcher my Croatian in the beginning. I'm just trying to be friendly and post a cool video comparing two cars that I like. And again, I have to emphasize this again. Yes, the Roadster's coming out. I will put the other video for you guys to watch, but it pretty much talks about the same stuff here. So that is the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.